Welcome to Bluegrass Brooklyn, our podcast all about the music we love, straight from the Bluegrass borough of Brooklyn, New York.
If you go to the waters and you might run into my old friend, it is not a person, but it has personality.
Well, hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 2 of Bluegrass Brooklyn. My name is Liz Wolfe.
And I'm Mike Wilner.
And we're very excited to introduce a new theme to the podcast, which is iconic venues. And we are starting today with a quite iconic venue, which is Sonny's of Red Hook.
That's right. You go any place practically and talk to musicians in Boston, Western Pennsylvania, Sydney, Australia, and they've all heard of Sonny's Bar and the jam that goes on there.
Because it has been going on for years and years. And that's the conversation we're going to have with Tuna, the owner of the bar. She is telling us the backstory of how she came to actually get the bar and how the whole Bluegrass Jam came about, which is really fun.
Also, we get to talk with Tim Davis, otherwise known as Timmy Ivories, who's a fixture at Sonny's Jam for the last several decades, and get a little insight to his experience being part of that jam.
Speaking of iconic venues, if I sound a little tired, it's because I just spent 10 days going to some bluegrass event or another. I started out at Wind Gap Festival, the AFBA one, which is the one in August. Went directly to Ashokan for the Bluegrass Week with Kimber Ludiker, which was amazing. And because I just couldn't get enough, I got in my RV and I drove up to Podunk, which is another iconic venue. So we're going to be sharing about those adventures with you as we go through this season.
For myself, I've spent the last 10 or 15 days first at the Bluegrass camp. We were there together, jamming and learning. Then I went home about long enough to cut the lawn and came back up here for the Southern Week. We're going to be able to give you guys in the audience a real insight into Ashokan Center and the people who run it and created it, which is fascinating.
Well, let's get into our episode here with Tuna and Tim and listen to what they have to say about that iconic venue first.
But before we do that, please remember, follow us on Instagram at Bluegrass Brooklyn. Brooklyn is spelled BKLYN, or visit us at bluegrassbrooklyn.com. And Liz, if folks want to find a jam in Uptown Manhattan or Bronx or Riverdale, where should they look? Or the rest of the world?
Yes, or the rest of the world. We're building that jampire. Bluegrassjamsnearme.com. There's so much happening. And I actually want to throw one little thing out right now, which is my 10th annual this year, Labor Day weekend camp and jam. It's at my place upstate. So if you like camping and you like jamming and you just haven't had enough this summer, reach out to me, Liz at bluegrassjamsnearme.com.
All right, so should we get started?
Let's go.
All right, let's roll.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today, I have Tone Johansen. She is the owner of the iconic Sonny's Bar in Red Hook, Brooklyn, the source of many beautiful bluegrass moments and other musical moments as well. So welcome, Tone, to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Liz.
So almost everybody I know has either heard about Sonny's, been to Sonny's, wants to go to Sonny's. It's just really a beautiful part of the bluegrass scene in Brooklyn. And of course, even worldwide, people know about it. Everybody wants to hear a little bit about your origin story. I'm interested in knowing, how did you get into music to begin with? Because I know you yourself are an accomplished bluegrass musician.
I come from a Pentecostal family. I grew up on an island in Norway called Freya. And we didn't have TV or radio. We had a little transistor radio that would listen to the weather, basically. But since my parents were so religious, we all got like a Bible and guitar as soon as young as we could, and we sang harmonies, and that is where I have my music from, is from worship, really. And I feel like the biggest way that has influenced me is that it wasn't through performance. Here you're on stage and you need to act and perform like that. It is through the spiritual connection with music. That is the purpose of the music. And I feel like I still have that. And that bleeds through in everything I do musically at the bar.
I know you play many musical styles, but how did you come to bluegrass?
Well, oddly enough, that is the kind of music that we played. As Pentecostals, we didn't play anything electric. And my dad was the leader of the music in church. We played in people's houses. So, in many ways, the back room is like a replica of that. It was almost like electric music, was a little bit from the devil. So, none of that. No bass. It was mostly guitars and not even fiddle, because also the fiddle is a little bit like the devil's music, but like accordion and lots of harmonies.
And harmonies, yes. And I've enjoyed singing harmonies with you at
Yeah.
times at Sunny's.
And if I also can say, because if you sing in old wooden buildings like I did, you learn to just like open up and sing, project it a lot louder. So I feel like I sing a lot louder than the average singer, and that is because that's what you do when you don't have anything mic'd.
I met a woman at a different jam, and it was her turn, and she said, "Oh, I don't sing." And I always hearken back to when I was a kid, how people said to me, "Sing louder." And so many people have been told to sing quieter. And that's why they believe they can't sing to this day. I feel so sad for all these adults who don't sing because they feel like they should be singing quieter.
There is a lot of things in music that puts you on the dare like that. I'm not religious anymore, but that connection with your emotions, and any cultural expression is an emotional expression. It's an expression of our spirit, and it puts you on that dare. Are you going to really open that up and put that out there? And you don't know exactly how it's going to go, but you feel so vulnerable. And that's why it is so beautiful when you have the support around you or people that love you. And that is the beauty of the jam.
So there you were on this island, and you said, "Let me go to New York City."
I know there was a lot of steps in between. I left very young because I didn't see any future there. I need to find some boyfriends and some friends in general. And I became a punk for a good while there and got into that kind of music. And I educated myself in the arts. I'm educated in sculpture. And I got a very prestigious grant that is given to one Norwegian artist a year to come to New York and be part of an international studio program run by PS1, which is now operated by MoMA, actually. And I was still a punk when I came to New York. And this kind of music was very far in the background to me until there was a couple that came to the bar called Kate and Lou Giampetruzzi. And they had a few recordings out, and they just asked if they could sit in the front booth and play some songs. And to my shock and surprise, I was like, oh my God, you guys are playing the music from my childhood. I can jump in and sing third harmonies to anything you play. It was like yesterday, but it was 20 years ago or something like that. And that's how it all started. If I can say, because this is important to me, especially these days when everybody's playing and everybody's into playing. It was one of the most absolutely uncool things you could do. There was nobody into bluegrass. Okay. It is like, oh, you're just like the hootenanny, and you were being made fun of a little bit. And it took a lot of courage, I can tell you, to sit there for all of those years and play an acoustic instrument with a handful of people. Just a handful of people. Not all of them could play. So if you're sitting there and you don't know who's going to show up, and here you have a guy that's playing the saw, and
The saw.
the saw, yes.
Like the
And
saw, like a
the
saw.
saw, exactly.
With a bow?
The bow, and oh, here's a dobro. And every Saturday you feel, what can I make out of this? You've seen those chef programs where you open the fridge and there's three things there? what do I make with ketchup and some leftovers? And it was a little bit like that. Then it grew. There had been like a jam that couldn't continue, and those people came and asked if they could come and play, and they were like, every Saturday. I was like, every Saturday, but I didn't have anything else going on. The bar was absolutely not busy. Red Hook was still a dump then. There is something to be said for showing up and doing the thing. I'm a big believer in that. I have never been the type to just advertise and lure people in, and it is like there is also a beautiful learning by doing that I had through all of those years of showing up and building a community and building a culture. When I look at it now, everything that is happening in the bluegrass community and the musical community of that type of music, it is absolutely mind-blowing. All the bands that have come out of it, all the connections that have come out of it. I will never forget those times when there was like crickets down here and you sit with 4 people on the Saturday night and try to make something.
And that is when Sonny was still alive? You started this?
Yeah, but it was never really part of that at all. I mean, this is my heart. I feel like Kate and Lou gave me this little. They didn't have kids. The music was their kid in essence, and they gave it to me. And they both passed away, and I got this thing, this little thing that they had nurtured from the 70s. There was a generational passing on of what they had been part of creating.
So many people have heard the struggle, of course, that you went through when Sonny passed away, and then you went through the effort of holding on to the bar. There's articles written about that. So what do you think you mostly learned out of that experience? Just to give a little background, it was a struggle there were how many, 19 people?
Well, if I can say, I incorporated Sonny's Bar as Sonny's Bar in 2001. So from then on, I actually ran the bar. So the ownership was something that had actually been brewing for generations because they never divided the estate. It's understandable from that point that their grandparents had wanted to just pass on the houses to their kids, but then it kept dividing down through the generations and then ended up with 19 owners. And it is hard enough for 2 people to agree, let alone 19. And what the relatives did then after Sandy, the big flood that actually completely devastated us, and all the fundraising and all the repairs that had to be done after that. But the lawsuit then that they filed is called a petition action, and a petition action will always end up in the public auction. So you have a timeline, and this is where everything is going to end. So it was like a race against time. And to get the contract, it was practically impossible. But I'm a pretty tenacious person. And if there is something I believe in, I will fight. I will go plan A all the way. I did not have a plan B. I put all my energy into pulling this through because this is something that I feel I was called here to do. I have to say to people, this idea that they say, oh, you can be anything you want to be and you can be the president of the country and this and that. But sometimes your purpose is something completely different. The bar wasn't what the bar was back then. It was a little completely run down place. There's few people that really understand how bad it was. But I felt that this was my job. This is what I was here to do. So I also want to encourage people that don't look at the headlines when you're looking for your purpose in life. Go with your feeling. They say go with your guts. That is the informations that your feelings give to you. And I just belong here. I know it.
The place that I've found the most impact on making community is in the world of bluegrass. So that is part of what I see you creating at Sunny's. Number one, when people come that are new, you're very deliberate about asking them their name and asking if they want to do a song. You're very
Yes.
deliberate in how you go around in the search.
Yes, it is a communal experience, but there is a lot of unwritten rules, like it is in any social experience, that I pay a lot of attention to, that people are maybe not as aware of as I am. And if I can give people a suggestion, if you're a beginner and you don't have a lot of songs, don't learn 3 slow songs or 3 fast songs. Learn a slow, a medium, and a fast song. Because if the person that goes before you does a fast song, you can do a slow song or a medium song. It makes the whole energy of the jam better.
Yeah, I totally agree with your point of view here. And get those 3 songs down, get that slow, medium, and fast
Yes.
song down so that you feel comfortable when you get up to lead a song.
Also, I actually like a little jam buster once in a while. I like that little spice. But if you're gonna throw a jam buster, that's the wild card. So you need to know how to direct. Is be very clear. I like crooked songs. I just do. I like those old squirrely songs. You need to direct, and then you can throw a jam buster.
I have something I like to call jamecdote, which is like a funny thing that might have happened at a jam sometime. And I'm guessing you have at least one jamecdote of something that's occurred at the Sunny's jam.
Wow, I can't remember what the name of this guy was, but once in a while you have somebody playing an unusual instrument that shows up, which we are good with, by the way. I heard that at Portsmouth we had a sousaphone playing the bass line, but this guy showed up with a washboard that was so freaking tricked out. And he had things on his fingers and stuff and started just to play the walls. It was just like a mix between performance. It was like a musical, truly a performance. And it's stuff like that. Wow. And that you're free enough to do that. And everybody sits there in awe. So
has anyone ever been anyone to show up that was famous that you are like, oh, so-and-so showed up?
Oh, we've had a lot of famous people come and listen to the jam. But that old piano that we finally replaced, Lady Gaga played on that.
How fun.
So that's the most famous person that, well, she played on the piano, but not in the jam.
You released a bluegrass album. So tell us about that.
I write a lot of music actually in different genres. I've had songs in me that I feel is connected to my childhood music. And for me, this album, Homecoming, which you can find on Spotify and the platforms under my name, Tone Johansen, they're a bridge from the music of my childhood and the homecoming here. I feel like I took the music from that and bridged it over to the back room at Sunny's. Jefferson Hamer was very instrumental in playing on it, and then Jared Angle on bass, and my friend Ken Shoji on fiddle, Robbie on drums on a couple, but I kept it very, very down to earth. I really wanted that acoustic room feel on the album. I think it's got that with a couple of exceptions. The songs, the lyrics and the music is original.
Original.
Yes, all original.
So what do you see as a future for Sunny's Bar and for yourself? What can we expect as the years go by at Sunny's Jams?
First of all, I do want to keep going on and going on, because a strange thing for me that's been there from the beginning is that I've had like a whole generation of people that have passed away, because I got delivered this music from the people that were young in the 60s that played it in the 70s. And I have 1 or 2 left from that generation, and all the people that have passed through the jam now, it has to be not in the hundreds. I mean, it's got to be more. It is strange. I love the mix of all the generations. there is such a beauty in that. This is what we do. We're passing it on. And I see the young people come in eager to learn, and that's how it's supposed to be. But I do have a little dream, though, a little fantasy that if it was ever possible, like I said, it's a fantasy, but you got to say it out loud,
I'm
right?
with you. I'm with you 100%. Future fantasy.
A little kind of like summer camp. I mean, I feel like when we play outside during the summer, it has that feeling. I want to be in a hut in the woods and burn some wood and drink some wine and play some more and go on a hike. And yeah. So
Okay.
I'm putting it out there. Maybe not a tent. For me, I need a little comfort. So,
Sunny's Summer Jam.
Yes.
Sunny's Summer Jam Camp. Okay. Well, yes, you got to say it out loud. Well, this has been so wonderful to have this conversation with you. Such an incredible depth. There are articles online that people can go if they want to read more about Sunny's. What's your website address if people want to see the schedule of the other music you also have?
Sunny'sRedHook.com. Yeah.
Sunny'sRedHook.com. Sunny's is one of those iconic places that you've got to come and see if you're in New York. And yes, it's a little out of the way. Okay, you have to either drive or take an Uber or whatever, but that's part of the beauty of it is when you drive up those cobblestone streets, or you go over them and then you can basically pull up right there and park, which is great. And a Saturday night or a Sunday afternoon or any night of the week when you have music going on. It's a beautiful place to be. And I hope it continues for many years.
Thank you so much, Liz. It's been a pleasure.
All right, so I'm here with local and regional bluegrass phenomenon, Tim Davis. Anybody who's gone to Sunny's knows Tim from his distinctive repertoire, his piano playing at Sunny's. How many sea shanties do you actually know?
Not as many as I should, but I do know a fair few. But if you've ever hung out with the shanty folk, they go deep.
When did you come to Brooklyn?
I am from Cambridge, Massachusetts. I moved to New York, I think around 1995. So I've been here about 30 years now. And though my mother is from New York, so I'm
Okay.
kind of half New Yorker. And so I've lived half my life in Boston, half my life in New York, but I'm very much Northeastern and all around New England.
Well, we can confer Brooklyn citizenship upon you right now if you have not
Yes.
yet acquired it. So congratulations. So, Tim, what would you consider your primary instrument and how many do you play?
I guess my primary instrument will always be the piano. I think I've been playing it really before I could walk. There was a piano in my house growing up. And so that I think was my primal instrument. I played it all the time, though I'm unteachable. I've never really had a successful lesson in my life in any instrument. I'm completely unteachable, but I did come up with my own system over the years. And then I picked up guitar, obviously, when I was a little bit older. I only picked up the concertina recently, which
Recently being what?
That was a pandemic pickup.
Yeah.
I always wanted to play, and especially when Sonny's moved outside, I could play guitar, but I wanted another instrument. And I was really influenced by the concertina. I love the sound. I love small portable instruments that you can bring with you, play in your car, bring everywhere. So it's a bit of a new pickup for me, but I'm utterly obsessed with it. And it's also been a gateway to Irish music and
Right.
going to trad sessions, which was a big part of growing up for me. It was another big musical influence.
So let me contextualize this for our listeners. Tim often will call sea shanty songs at jams and also at Porch Stomp, which we talked about on previous episodes, hosted a sea shanty performance. So how do you come by your lore?
Like I said, I think growing up, there were a lot of those that were around. To back up, I play a lot of bluegrass. I am very much part of the bluegrass scene in Brooklyn. I have been for the last 15 years.
Yep.
And I play bluegrass every week without fail. And I'm the late shift house pianist at the Sunny's Jam going on 15 years. For me, the music I grew up with, I try to incorporate that, the bluegrass traditions. One of the great things about Sonny's is that it's a bit open. I mean, it's very important we call it a bluegrass jam because it's acoustic and it uses a lot of the same instruments, and we follow the bluegrass structure with song and breaks, but it's really open for a lot of other things. I moved to New York in the 90s. I promptly got married at 25, and me and my wife started a family, and I stopped playing for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was just focusing on being a dad. But not all of us, but a lot of us. I would even say most of us in the community are really, it's not our profession. It's really what we do for love. It's more of a
Yeah.
spiritual thing.
Yeah,
And
agree.
that's one of the wonderful things about it is that we were just doing it sure for the love of the music and the community and communing with each other musically, which is one of the things I love about being a musician in the
Yeah.
Northeast. But one night, we had a babysitter. We went out with some friends. We went to Sonny's on a Saturday,
Ah,
and there were my old friends from back in the day, because I had been part of the scene. And that's where I met Izzy and Brenda, who are both now gone, and Lenny, who's also no longer with us. A lot of those folks who were part of that scene in the 90s. And so I was with that scene going to Sonny's in the 90s, back when Sonny was running it. And I go to Sonny's and I see Izzy and Brenda and Lenny and everybody. And there's a piano there, which there never used to be at the jams, because I was always a piano player. I wasn't doing anything
right.
because there was no piano for me to play. And old time, it's not encouraged.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, because the interesting thing about being a piano player at jam, if you go to most jam sessions, they like to use the piano as the place to stack all the instruments to encourage no one from using it. But this was open. So I slid in there and I really haven't slid out. It was just so great for me to be playing music again.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm playing a lot of music with my kids, like playing
Lovely.
guitar, banjo. I play a little banjo, a little mando, things I had hanging around the house. I have piano. But now I could play with people again. And there were some folks that remembered me from back in the day and reestablishing those connections. That was really, really magical. And my wife had sort of a deal. Then I wanted to go every week. And she's like, you can go, but you don't get a pass in the morning. You have to,
Right.
that little league game in Fort Tilden at 8 a.m., you're going.
That's
So
right.
there was many years of me getting up, having gone to bed at 4, because in those days, I think there was a band came and then the jam started after the band set. So it really started around 10, maybe 11, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
And the bar closed at 3 officially and 4 unofficially. So we would roll out at 4 in the morning, stop at Mazzola Bakery, knock on the door, buy some bread direct fresh out of the oven, eat it on
Nice.
the way home, get up. And I would get up and be at some birthday party at 9
Yes.
a.m. under a parachute, or just slugging coffee at a little league game way off in Staten Island somewhere. But for me, it was worth it because it was great to be playing music and knowing bluegrass, but that's how I really just absorbed all that repertoire. But being a piano player at a bluegrass jam, that automatically makes it not strictly bluegrass.
Right.
And so I brought my swing tradition into it, which I love because I grew up really loving Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong and Fats Waller and stride piano, which mixed very well, Bob Wills, and just honky tonk, just being a blues pianist my entire life.
Yep.
And bringing that into it, and that worked. So it made it a bit more of a honky tonk jam. But I think it expanded the sound and it makes it very unique. I think that's why we always are reinventing what bluegrass means at Sonny's.
Right.
And having a piano as part of the sound is very important. Though, since it's the loudest instrument in the room, about 10 years ago, we came up with a system where Tetsuro would play for the first few hours, I go in for the next. So it doesn't switch all the time because we know the tunes,
Right.
we can
Right.
play in different keys. And most importantly, we know not to play too loud.
Yeah, you'll
We
hold back
can-
a bit.
We'll hold back and we solo, and it's kind of an art to it, and that's really allowed us to have one of the few jams that has a piano and have it work. That's our system, and I stick to it religiously. For
Right.
me, it's kind of bringing my musical and cultural heritage from the Northeast that I grew up being steeped in to the bluegrass table, and I'm just playing from the heart and from channeling my cultural heritage I grew up with and trying to apply it to the bluegrass structure. So I'm bringing those sea shanties that I sing at home and Irish songs that we sang at home and those shaker tunes coming from the revels, those old English songs and the
Right.
contra dancing and Morris dancing that we grew up with in New England. And then, of course, a lot of the avant-garde music that I grew up with, the Velvet Underground, that kind of inventiveness, and then Django Reinhardt, African music, which has all that stuff that we were really digging growing up in the Northeast. bringing that to the table. And that's what's so wonderful about Sunny's. It's a bit of a stew. It's like funk. Everyone's bringing a little bit of something. Have rules that we follow there about keeping it acoustic, following a certain format, passing it around. Tuna very much in charge. It's her jam.
Yep.
She's created this space for us and runs it. And we call it our drinking church. It's a church. It is a spiritual thing. No one's getting paid. We just do it every week. It's about being grounded in that space.
Yep.
Not wanting to tour, not wanting to do a ton of gigs, though I do take gigs that come along, but I can be choosy because it's not what I do for a living.
Right.
And just finding stuff I'm interested in doing. And then, but just really having that free form thing every week. It's different every week, and we have no idea what it's going to be like. And it's not strict on one genre, which I like. That's Tim Davis in a nutshell.
There we go.
Or Seashell.
I know that there's a lot of variety down at Sunny's.
I've recorded every Sunny's jam for the last 12 years, and I have my own archive on SoundCloud. Usually the next day or when I'm driving back up to Boston, I listen to it. So I almost re-listen to the jam every time, and I share it with everyone who was there the night before.
So let me share with you my coolest jam experience, then I'm going to ask you for yours. So one Saturday morning, it was time for Porch Stomp. And we were all going. And going to Porch Stomp means getting to a small island in New York Harbor, right? Governor's Island. And there's a ferry that goes there. And so my wife Ruth and I arrive at this rather nondescript ferry terminal. And lo and behold, several other people, including yourself, Tim, just sort of hanging around, chatting, waiting for the ferry. We had maybe a half an hour to wait. And we're waiting, and then someone gets the bright idea is, let's jam, because we all have our instruments, right? We all took out instruments, and you led a few sea shanties, and other people led songs, and the passersby were amazed. It was the coolest thing ever, for me at least. So I want to thank you for being a catalyst of that.
Let's do this. We're all here.
That's
and
right.
There's something so wonderful about playing music near water, you know, which is like what I love when we're in the summer out front at Sunny's and just being, there's something about water that I find the way it conducts sound and emotion. I love it.
So tell me, what was your coolest jam experience, or at least what you can recall?
Oh, there have been so many because I've had half a lifetime of jamming. But if I were to pick one, I think that one of our favorites, and we talk about it to this day, was my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And this was during the pandemic. We were playing at a place in South Slope. They would let us play in the yard under heaters so we could play outside. So a few of us got together, and it would be winter. We didn't care. Like, this was so hardcore, just jammers that just loved to play. So a few regular folks from the scene, we all get together. It was my birthday. I remember that. It was a blizzard. It was February. And we all just sat in the back in a blizzard, just singing and playing in the snow. And it was one of our favorite. It was magical. But that's one thing I really love about the scene in Brooklyn, is that there's so many moments like that, you know?
Yep.
And I think it could only end in Brooklyn.
I want to thank you for taking the time. It was fascinating to get to know you better. And I look forward to seeing you around the Jam Circle again.
Yes, and I promise to get out to Delia's on a Wednesday. I'm really looking forward to jamming with you over there sometime.
Okay, we're looking forward to having you down there. So take it easy, Tim.
My pleasure.
Well, that was an amazing interview. I was fascinated talking with Tuna and hearing about everything that she's gone through, but not just that, her background, how she grew up in this musical house, and how all of that informed her bluegrass journey, and how she keeps working towards making Sunny's a better and better place to go and play.
Yeah, she really has a sense of purpose and direction with that place, and a tremendous contribution to the bluegrass community. And it was great to learn more about Tim. We all have heard his sea shanties and concertina and piano, but to get a little glimpse into who he is and how he got into all of this was fascinating.
Yeah. So thank you for listening. Once again, don't forget to follow us at Bluegrass Brooklyn, BKLYN. You can go to bluegrassbrooklyn.com and get all the links to all our past episodes. And I really want to thank all our listeners for continuing to support this podcast. It's been really a blast.
Yep. Looking forward to seeing you around the jam circle.
Let's start with the chorus and I'll teach you how it goes, okay? It's a waltz.